Hello, and welcome to Tales from the Dark Dragon's Inn, Episode 12, A Man Revealed. This week we have Tom as Urbak, Liz as Toby, Nina as Mix, Vinny as Murren, and I'm Ray, your host and game master. And I play, well, just about everyone else. Before we get started, I just want to say a few words. It's been an odd week for tabletop role-playing games in the Twitterverse. I don't really want to get into it a whole bunch because there's a lot of negativity out there already. But listen, wherever you are, and whatever you're doing whilst you're listening to this podcast, if at any point you find yourself wondering, is the D&D community really for me? I'm here to tell you that it is. Regardless of what or who you are, your level or type of involvement, I will welcome you with open arms, and so will so many other people. I say this every week, but I want you to know that I mean it. The scales of justice are here for you. Always. Now, without further delay, let's get on with the show, shall we?
It's so good to see you! Have you been looking forward to tonight as much as I have? The Helping Hands Company are running the show again. I think the illusions are my favourite bit. Wonder if we can convince the Doomsinger to incorporate them.
Hello, and welcome to the Dark Dragon's Inn. I am Evangeline of the Helping Hands, and tonight I spin the tale of Leosin Erlanthar and his encounter with the scales of justice.
It is now the 4th day of the 6th week of spring. It is mid-afternoon, and unless you have something specific you would like to do, you are all reconvening in the courtyard, with Mix having returned from her few days sojourning away with Titania, and each of you respectively doing your own thing. Urbak looks a little bit nervous about his activities the night before, though obviously I imagine most of you do not know anything about them.
Unless he's told anyone about how
I very much doubt it. I think he was doing it quite late at night.
No one knows, I'm good.
None of the nurses know. None of the doctors know. You haven't told any of the party. Someone knows.
Not everything is as bouncy and whimsical anymore.
The moment you left that forest, everything just seemed dull, grey and overshadowed. It's not a warm day, I think. It's cloudy. It's not raining. It's just overcast. And it's approaching the...
Mix is happy to see Scraw too.
Hello there! You've been gone a while? I've been keeping Toby out of trouble, just like you said.
Good! And Mix ruffles Scraw's hair while she's being hugged, just ruffle, ruffle, ruffle.
Actually, spent the last couple of days very bored.
Yeah, he's been... Exactly, yeah. Keeping him out of trouble was very easy. I don't know why he needed monitoring. It wasn't exciting at all.
It's okay, I'll take over from here. You are relieved of duty, soldier.
Excellent, I'm full of rage. Scraw has leveled up by monitoring Toby and being so bored out of his mind that he's just furious and wants to kill something.
He's gained intelligence.
He's always been quite intelligent, he just hides it well. Urbak and Murren, what are you guys doing?
Where Nix is stood. Why do you have a dragon?
Did you get a pet?
Listen.
Mix looks at her little pseudo friend and back at them and back at her students with Draconius. Would you like to introduce yourself to my companions?
And you see the small lizard turns and looks around at you, all points at himself and goes,
Draconius!
Good talk. Fascinating.
Well met.
It lifts a claw and waves.
Yes, this is my new friend. He has been gifted to me by Titania to keep me company and be a friend and...
Company!
be of help now and again.
Draconius! Help!
And he jumps up on your shoulder and puffs his chest up.
Oh, I love this thing. I want one for real. So yeah, guys, he will be joining us on our adventures.
Adventure!
I feel like maybe Oz would be giving this pseudo-dragon a lot of scrutiny.
You see him wave at Oz.
Can ravens narrow their eyes? Because I feel like
I think ravens have eyelids, so yes, I imagine so.
just scrutinizing this lizard creature. Just what?
I can kind of see Draconius just being like...
Murren.
I want to say to Urba, pay him a visit then.
Could do, I suppose.
Scraw's still hugging Toby and Mix. That seems like a fine idea.
Toby is trying to escape.
Are you okay there?
You let go.
Oh, of course. Then he takes a step back. Very well. To Leosin?
Yes, let's
That sounds like a
see how
plan.
he's doing.
Marin, you head over after making the suggestion to Urbak and people variously agreeing that that's a good idea and to go and investigate. And you make your way over to the medical wing of Keep. Uninterrupted, as you guys are fairly well known around here at this point. It's been a few days, no more than about a week at this point, since you first arrived. And yet you are all very well known by your face and by name. And occasionally you see people nod and acknowledge you as you pass. You occasionally catch sight of some of the previously rescued prisoners wandering around the keep, going about their business and trying to recover and relax after their ordeal. You get to the medical area where the tabaxi doctors appear to be clustered around Leosin's bed. And Nassim is sitting in the chair which you originally found him in, and he looks up as you all enter. Marin. And the scales of justice. It is good to see you all. You guys notice that there appears to be a small hive of activity around Leosin's bed, and you can't get a clear view of what's going on.
What's happening with Leosin? Has there been a change?
He appears to have woken in the night and asked for water. They are doing a lot of testing to make sure that he is stable.
He's awake? It worked!
It would appear so.
What work?
Good news.
I must confess, I did a little experimentation, you see. I've come across many trauma victims before in my past, and I wanted to try and determine some kind of way of removing the trauma from them. Most of the time they don't tend to recover, and they tend to be in a state of trauma and damage for days, years, even decades. So I began experimenting with a little invasive mind therapy, to be precise.
You went into his head?
Magically, not physically, of course.
Without his
definitely-
knowledge or consent.
One cannot truly consent when one is in a state of complete shock and trauma.
You don't think this has the possibility of backfiring in any way?
The possibilities were too great to miss. Think of it. Just to remove and excise any old mental and pain suffering, like excising a tumour.
How are you sure that this didn't give him more trauma?
I was extremely careful, I will have you know.
Is there any way to find out if this is gonna, I don't know, have long-term damage on him?
My master is very strong-willed. If any such attempts were made, it would be very surprising to me if Bahamut was not directly intervening in his protection.
Well, I mean, if he has Bahamut's protection, maybe we should just see how things go.
Sorry, I was fairly convinced. After all, he's a monk, and they are known to undergo rigorous mental training. It'd be a very different matter than, say, choosing the mind of an elderly, feeble person.
Quite.
I will admit I apologise for the lack of, consent, but I just had the opportunity right there and the possibility, and one cannot leave a life unsaved.
Would be interesting to hear what the doctors who would obviously have been observing such practices thought about Leosin's reactions to your treatment.
Urbak, doctor, this procedure, was it of a magical nature?
Entirely.
I just turned to Nassim. Well, I do hope the light of Bahamut has brought him back.
I am sure that he will be quite all right. He has been through far worse.
Through whatever circumstances. And I just kind
Indeed.
of, side glance the doctor.
You guys are watching and you see the head doctor of the surgery turn to you and say, "Do any of you have business here? You must understand we are very busy. And there are many of you. We cannot have you interfering.
Is the patient okay? Is Leosin okay?
He is cognizant, if that is what you mean.
Is there any chance we could speak to him?
I'll see what I can do.
It doesn't have to be all of us, but we just have a couple questions for him, that's all.
He has been through much, and he has been awake less than 24 hours. I am sure a short, brief questioning would not be entirely inappropriate, but please do keep it brief. Bear with me. I must make sure our tests are complete before we allow this to continue. She turns away from you and goes back to her doctors, and you see her having a brief discussion while she leaves you to your own.
Erbak is happy and patient to wait.
Boys!
Darkonius is just poking you.
Mick boops him on the nose.
That really wasn't necessary. Are we going to be long?
To him, I don't know how long this is going to take. Well, hopefully it won't take too long, but we need to speak to this guy.
Okay.
I'll feed you really good food when we're done.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing else hereafter.
That's fine.
Darkonius.
I just want to get out of here. Boring.
At this point, you're making eyes and faces at Darkonius, and the doctor comes in and says, I will be fine to let you speak with the patient. However, and she looks at Oz and Darkonius, please, can you have your animals wait outside?
How rude.
I cannot have our patient exposed to whatever they might be carrying.
That is an unneeded accusation. Mix.
You can follow our rules, or you can leave. It is up to you.
I'll leave.
As you wish.
Mix will stay with the pets that carry no disease or anything like it.
Well, Toby doesn't necessarily have any questions of his own. He does at least want to observe the other two. He's a lot more weary of Erbak now. So he tells Oz to wait outside with Mix and Darkonius.
Toby, you have to do me a really big favor.
What?
If you get a chance to ask Leosin, see if you can find out more about where the progeny was kept. Really think we really need to go back and take care of him, but we don't know what he looks like, we don't know exactly where he is. If you can find out anything from Leosin, it would be very appreciated.
Yeah, no problem, I can ask that for you.
Thank you. Mix feels better now.
Yes. Please, just take them outside. I do not have time for this. As you wander away. Animal people, I just don't get it. Anyway, please, keep it brief. Ask, we will have a doctor nearby in case the patient needs any assistance. If you are causing my patient undue stress, be prepared to be punished. Are we clear?
Crystal.
Yes.
Well, then she turns to her fellow colleagues and she shoos them on. You have 5 minutes. The doctors clear away from the bed. They reveal the no longer quite as war-weary form of Leosin Erlanthar, the Silver Dragonborn, with a large scar across his face. He blinks and looks around at each of you, and he seems quite lucid.
Hi there. First of all, I must apologise for the mine thing earlier. I was attempting to discern and hopefully remove the source of any trauma. I sincerely apologise.
See.
My name is Dr. Erbak Voss, and these are my colleagues of the Scales of Justice.
Ah, yes, I have heard the name. The, doctors. They mentioned you, brought me here. I suppose I have a debt of thanks I owe you all. Not that I asked to be brought here.
Well, you're out of harm's way at the very least. It's good to see you're awake. And alive, no less.
Yes, I suppose it is. What, can I do for you all? Why have total strangers gone to such lengths for someone they do not know?
Leosin, you may know my master, Creve.
Of the Order of the Stone Claw.
That's correct.
That's good, because I completely forgot for a moment there.
Quite alright. You've been out of it for a number of days.
Yes, I may know your master. He's a fine man.
Well,
And what brings you here?
I had received a letter that he had sent telling me to go and find you. He said that you may have been studying the cultists.
Yes, I, been studying them a little bit closer than I had planned, but your master speaks true.
Is there anything you can tell us about what you may have learned?
Well, where can I start? Would probably be easier to ask me what I don't know about them at this point. Ow!
He's clutching his chest. He's not completely over whatever it was that they put him through.
I'm afraid you'll have to be a little more specific.
We believe that they have the progeny of an adult blue dragon. Do you happen to know anything about that? What condition it's in, where they've put it, what they're planning to do with it?
I did hear something about hatchlings. Before they discovered my ruse, I did manage to learn that there was something being kept in the cave at the back of the camp, though they would not allow anyone in there, not unless they were approved by the wearers of purple. What a stupid title. So grandiose and pathetic. But, it's possible that the hatchlings they referred to were the progeny of something. Dragon seems likely, given the nature of the cult, but no one can get near that cave. Only those approved by the worm speakers themselves get anywhere near it.
Did you say the worm speakers?
Yes, that is the title that those of the utmost order in the cult bestow upon themselves, though I cannot say I know why. Revmir, I believe, was the main bitch behind it all. She calls herself a worm speaker, but she is also aware of purple. Her and Mondath have absolute control over the entire camp, and they have absolute say over who goes in and out of that cave. I suspect if there is any such progeny in the camp, that is where it is most likely to be. The excess meat from the hunters was actually taken there frequently, as were the dead prisoners. So I suspect that's probably where it is, unless they've got some other kind of monstrosity down there. Hatchlings could refer to a great many number of things.
Whatever it is, they seem keen to keep them alive if they're feeding it.
That much is true. I believe if what you say is true and it is a dragon, well, chances are they're hoping to raise it in their own likeness. Turn it evil, probably. That would be my hunch. Unfortunately, they discovered me long before I got much in the way of details. I had not heard anything about dragon younglings, but I'd certainly say it sounds plausible. They have a very strict guard rotation, you see, and anybody who tries to get close that is not on the list is surely and swiftly expelled.
When you said that they saw through your ruse, did you come to the camp under disguise, or?
Well, I'm glad that you asked. I did feel the need to express my brilliance, so I have spent many, many weeks studying these cults, months even. Their behavior has become erratic, strange. I knew that they would hit this city before long, and I was right. I came here expecting, waiting for them to strike, and when they did, I infiltrated their order. I snuck back to the camp. I was one of them. I snuck around and nobody noticed a thing, right up until I told them I was Revmir, and nobody believed me. On account of me being silver, apparently Revmir is not.
Didn't you
It
also
seems like a
say
major
Revmir was
oversight.
A slip of the tongue. I was cornered. I had to explain myself. And I hadn't yet met any other Dragonborn cultists I could steal the name of, so I used the one that everybody referred to because they sounded scary.
Toby's face palming.
Seems you all fared much better than I. You managed to recover me after all. I'd be interested in hearing sometime about how you managed that.
When in doubt, play drunk.
I see. A worthy ruse. I will keep it in mind.
Fire may be a good distraction also.
Interesting. I'm more of the icy persuasion.
I was also curious about one particular thing. You seem to have a large number of mercenary contingents within the cult. Are these just additional groups that they've hired to help them? Or is there more cults?
That is my understanding, yes. The wearers of purple were keen to bolster the ranks. They've tried to convert many of the mercenaries, but, well, quite frankly, I think most of them are there for the gold.
So essentially, right now, they're merely operating as some kind of marauders, pillaging town after town?
More or less. They've been hitting small villages and towns for some time now. I knew the greenest was going to be next on their list. It was ripe for the picking. Easily struck, poorly defended, wealthy, and, crucially, on the path that they were already traveling.
So do you have an idea about where they're planning to go ultimately or next?
Unfortunately, Not really. I was not able to obtain that information. I was trying to sneak into the leader's tent so I could steal their maps.
One other thing that I couldn't determine for the life of me, the prisoners, what were they collecting prisoners for?
Honestly, the information in the camp about that is fairly vague. My understanding is that they're primarily for labor, and they work them until they're dead. Then they take their remains off into the caves and feed them to whatever, I suppose. If they choose not to work, well, they're often killed on the spot, or in some cases they actually converted to the worship of that she-devil. But as for why they're there, I suspect it's mostly manual labor. It could be for sacrifices. I'm not really sure. Nobody told me. But I think that's mostly because no one really knew. A lot of the camp seems to be run by initiates. People still trying to earn their way into the ranks.
I do recall a quarry where some of the prisoners were being applied.
The dig site, yeah. I'm not really sure what they were after, if I'm honest. There's not much value in the land around here. Quite frankly, I think they were just working them for something to do.
And you say with the dead prisoners, they
drag them off into the cave. I was never sure what happened to them after that, but you say that there's some kind of progeny down there, and I hear the word hatchlings being thrown around the camp. Seems to me they were being fed to something.
Premise that is, that's a pretty efficient way to get rid of bodies. If you've got lots of bodies, you need somewhere to put them.
something with an appetite, for sure.
Yeah, those cultists around the camp, they often referred to the cave as the nursery.
Definitely raising something down there then.
One would think so.
Do you know which towns still within an area that they could efficiently attack that haven't been hit yet?
It's interesting. To be totally honest with you, I got to the point where I realized Greenus was next. Realized that the time to strike would be soon, and I escalated my arrival as quickly as I could. I wanted to be sure that I was here before they got here. Nope, I'm afraid not. I was hoping that I would be around the camp long enough to determine where they were leaving to. If I could figure out what direction they were going in, well, from there, I'd be able to estimate whereabouts they were planning on attacking next. Problem is, there's a lot of culture and civilization around these parts.
Do you remember the areas in the camp where you were most likely to pick up such information? We tried the mess hall, but that was risky and, ironically, messy.
Tent.
Well, I mean, the mess hall worked fine for me while I was there, but I was trying to get more specifics from the leader's tent, as your friend here suggests. Namely because, as I say, a lot of the cultists taking part in the raid appeared to be initiates, trying to prove their worth to Tiamat and her followers. They're not privy to a lot of information. Mostly they spend their time complaining about the meat.
I'm just wondering if things are about to have changed dramatically, since, of course, our rescuing of you and several other prisoners was... It did not end subtly.
Well, I was,
I'm going to be more on guard if we try to go back there.
Well, if you plan on going back, perhaps there's information I can furnish you with. If you let me know what you think would be pertinent to you, and I'll see what I can offer.
Such a difficult position here.
Leosin, do you get an estimate of the total numbers in their force?
Including the mercenaries? It's hard to say. Those companies grow in size exponentially because the portions that they have managed to hire definitely do not include the entirety of the company. That said, they do have at least 3 different mercenary companies on retainer. The bulk of the forces there are primarily initiates and kobolds, because kobolds are stupid and easy to manipulate. I'd say cultists themselves, maybe about 100. But add in the mercenary companies and you've got at least 300-400 men there. I managed to ascertain that they had hired the Reavers, the Black Claw, and the Armcoat mercenaries, I believe, led by Wolfgang the Magnificent. Black Claw, they're run by an orc named Tarka, and the Reavers, they're mostly half-elves, run by Ertier Halfhand. She's a half-elf lizard man. They're not real loyal to anyone except money, though.
I wonder if it's worth acquiring mercenary forces of our own, supplement the forces here, and want a counter-attack of some kind. Either way, right now it's simply a bunch of farmsteads.
Do you think they're likely to launch a counterattack?
I think they're done with Greenearth, to be honest with you. One way or the other, they've got what they came for.
They will be moving on to other cities soon, though. Can you please see
Yes,
them hunting?
they will. But Greenest is likely safe. It has nothing left for them.
What we need are to gather over local maps of the area and know where the likeliest plan of attack would be.
Unfortunately, there's so many different places that are near here that they could go to literally any of. Greenest was my way in because I knew that it was going to be their next point of strike. It took me weeks to determine that this would be where they would go next. Having a map of the area simply isn't enough. We need intel. We need news from the inside.
Convince the various burgs and townships of the area to form an alliance of some kind? Strike first before they are struck? Combine their
Things possible, but reaction time between cities of that size is not a small feat.
I may have a way back in. Do you notice any kind of magic dispel other magic to prevent people going in under, say, an invisibility spell?
I can't even think of a magic spell that would be big enough to cover an area like that.
Or
So
maybe
no, I
just
suspect
like
not.
arrows?
I didn't detect any magic while I was there. Bahamut usually lets me know about that kind of thing. It didn't seem like the kind of thing that they've had time to set up and prepare. The cave may be protected, but I've never been able to explore it, so I couldn't advise. The camp itself is probably fine, though.
Might be able to find a way into the leader's tent to get more specific information, assuming I can get in and out during the time the spell lasts.
Leosin, are you a practitioner of magic yourself?
I'm afraid I'm not, no. I'm a monk, as I'm sure you are aware. You've been training with my apprentice. Whatever.
Seem he has shown me a great many things.
I'm glad to hear that. Your master should be pleased. Please do send him my regards when you see him next.
I will.
I'm afraid this cult activity doesn't make any sense, and it's very troubling. I'm not sure how much you know about the Cult of the Dragons, but they used to be focused on small-time stuff. Raising Draco Liches. Not that they were ever any good at it.
Snort himself.
And, I mean, they cause trouble from time to time, but never anything on this scale. I've been following their movements because their pattern of behavior changed so drastically. It's just dangerous.
No idea as to what the change.
All I know is that they're much more focused on Tiamat than they ever were before. Rezmir's almost, what's the word? Fanatically obsessed with Tiamat. She's driven by a passion that I've not seen before. She has a strange mask that never leaves her side.
You say she's the most dangerous one?
She's the one that they refer to as the Worm Speaker. I don't know that that makes her the most dangerous, but I get the impression she's easily the highest ranking within the camp. Now, despite my attempts, I did not get all the information that I was looking for while I was there. And after all you've done already for me personally and for the people of Greenest, I hate to ask anything more from you, but the need is great, and I dare to hope that you can aid me one more time.
What is it you seek?
I need you to return to the cultist camp. You know your way around it now. If the cultists are preparing to conduct another raid, or a large body of them marches away, or if anything substantial is carried into or out of that cave, we need to know. If you have a chance to get in that camp and look around again, that would be the ideal way to spot anything that's changed. I don't recommend letting yourself get captured, though. I'd be willing to pay, if that's what it takes. If I had been able to withstand what Rezmir is doing for longer, I might have been able to find more information, but no.
Ironically, even if you were to refuse, wandering away would, without luck, no doubt have the cultists attack us next anyway, regardless of where we are. So...
Well, that's certainly possible.
Leosin, did they question you during your torture?
As you say, did they question you? He looks at you like, yeah. During the torture, and he's like, yeah.
Rigorously.
Usually what they do when people torture you, you know.
They often don't torture you for, fun. Although Rezmir seemed to enjoy it a little too much, if you ask me. I suspect that had more to do with me being a follower of Bahamut than anything else, though.
Could you describe... Did you see any of the dragon people? They seemed like more than mere dragonborn. Could you describe
Rezmir.
the ones that spoke to you directly, that were involved in your torturing?
Yes, it was pretty much entirely Rezmir. She's a half-dragon. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term. It's something that, as a follower of Tiamat has the ability to take your form and force you through a violent and physical change. she can take your spiritual devotion to her and manifest it directly into your body. It changes you from whatever you are into a dragon of sorts. That's what Rezmir is. She's a black dragon, sort of. She's more humanoid than dragon, but she's more dragon than anything else.
Our friend Nyx fought some days ago. It was to first blood, so she survived.
Wasn't a fight against Resmir.
I think it was someone called Langdon Drosa.
She fought Langdon Drosa? Well, where is she? Get her ass in here. That's impressive. She's still standing. Hey, Nyx!
Ma?
You hear him calling you through the door.
I'm watching over our familiars. What do you want?
I can take over. This guy seems to want to talk to you.
Okay. Now you two.
Darkonius does a little mini salute,
We'll be fine. Me and Oz are making friends.
and Oz is just glaring at him as he does a little cat wiggle on the ground, ready to pounce.
Oh, God.
And then he jumps, and Oz jumps out of the way. As you come out of the room, Toby, Nyx is looking at them as you see Darkonius fly towards Oz, and Oz flap off into the air and peck down at him.
They've mostly been quiet until now. I cautiously walks into the room where she's been called to.
Toby stands outside and folds his arms and watches the spectacle.
You walk into the room and you see Leosin propped up in his bed, not looking too terribly worse for the wear compared to when you last saw him.
So you took on Langdon Drosa Signwrath. Not a hair missing off your head.
No. Well, yes, I did, but no hair missing. That was quite a night.
I'm impressed. You must be quite the warrior.
You could say that. And Mix is trying to act all cool, but she's still like, I have no idea how I did that.
He doesn't often stray too far from Mondath's side. Did you see her? Mondath. She's a half-elf, half-dragonborn, red dragonborn. She has a vicious set of scales that streak across her face. It's like a deformity.
I can't say I have, but I honestly think that the adrenaline from that fight and trying to keep everyone safe sort of got a hold of me, so no, I don't remember.
Fair enough.
During that fight, from our vantage point on the battlements, we did see him talking to someone else, if I recall, before he approached. He was stood next to someone.
So between the two of you, you piece together that actually he said black half-dragon. That's what you saw. It was a black half-dragon. You saw him speaking to Rezmir. You now know that you saw him speaking to Rezmir, because you now know that Rezmir is a black half-dragon.
It must have been that Rezmir then.
Frula Mondath is a wearer of purple. She is a high-ranking cultist, and she is never far from Langdon Drosa's Signwrath's side. You should be wary of her. She commands a lot of power in that sect.
Leosin, you said with Rezmir, from her devotion to Tiamat, she was able to change her form?
That is correct.
If we could kidnap just a single one of these, just one, imagine this would throw in so much of the camp in disarray.
That is true. They are always heavily guarded, however. As I mentioned that Furlum or Mondath is always under guard by Langdon Drosa. He is no small trifle, he says, looking at Mix, despite what you may believe now. And, Rezmir is not exactly easily challenged. If she were, I would not be here. She has a cadre of guards with her at all times, highly trained, lethal.
At this point, the doctor comes back over and says, "Look, I really must protest. This is going on far too long, and you guys are not efficient enough with your questioning, so get on with it or leave."
We will, well, if you wish to continue asking questions, please do. I must go and formulate plans. And the back's just going to wander off out the room, pondering to himself. In fact, he's going to go and pay a visit to that really weird guard.
So, Murren, Mix, you are now alone with Leosin. Do you have any further questions?
Not that I can think of right now, no.
So it seems that Rezmir had changed her form.
Yeah, I believe so. I don't know of any natural way that a half-dragon like that can exist otherwise.
Would it be possible at all that you could inflict this on others?
Probably not. This is more something that Tiamat has done to her, through her devotion to Tiamat herself. This is seen as a blessing by her people, not a curse. And I imagine that it takes a lot of power, a lot of energy from Tiamat to
achieve such a goal from her cages in hell. Not something that she is willing to do for the sake of someone who doesn't even want it. Someone that would not follow her goals.
Well, when we do return to the camp, and should we return ourselves, we'll let you know.
I am willing to offer financial recompense of up to 150 gold each. If that's all it takes, please pass it on to your comrades. It is of utmost importance that this happens sooner rather than later. Anything
I shall let
that
them know.
gets missed could be crucial to our endeavors. Though I imagine a few days here or there would probably be fine.
Well, I'll take my leave. I'll let you know.
Murr, before you go, within a few days, once I'm well enough to travel, my apprentice and I will be heading on to El Terrell. I will be seeking out Erlanthar Froome, a paladin of Torm. He will be interested to hear what we have learned about the cult, and it is imperative that we get this information to him as soon as possible. If you cannot find us here when you return, that is where we will be.
Is it far from here?
Far enough.
Whereabouts?
That's an interesting question for another time. I'm very tired.
Of course.
Put it this way, you'll need to get a wagon if you're going to go to El Sorel. We'll probably be traveling by horse next chance we get.
Well, rest up.
I intend to.
It was nice to meet you.
And you too, little warrior.
Mix puffs up her chest a little bit.
So you guys all make your way out. The backseat doctor comes in like, finally. I apologize. I should not have let this happen. They talk and they talk and they talk and they talk and they never stop. I just could not get rid of them the entire time you were out. It was ridiculous. To reconvene in the corridor outside of the medical facility, Draconius leaps up on you, Mix, as you leave the room.
That took forever. Why do people talk so much?
I'm so sorry, little buddy.
We're going on an adventure now.
Soon. Very soon.
Okay, that'll do.
And he curls up around your neck.
Oh, toasty.
So, you guys are all reconvened in the corridor, except for Urbak, who, Toby, you saw wander out of the room and head off out into the courtyard. Urbak, you see if you can find Warden. As he is a guard, he does actually have a job beyond being your library keeper. You wander out and you find him relatively quickly, and in fact you see him coming out of the equivalent of the mess hall in the keep. And you bump into him.
Oh, Urbak, dear boy. Always lovely to see a literary aficionado such as yourself. How are you?
Pardon, my good fellow. I was curious, actually. I was hoping to peruse some of your book collection again. I do promise you will have time to sit down and discuss it. I understand you have a very busy schedule.
I do, yes. It's such a very unfortunate state of affairs. I'm afraid I don't really allow people into the booktorium. However, if you can tell me what it is you're after, I'd be happy to see if I can find something for you.
As a doctor, I'm always curious about the additional capabilities of anesthesia and the different applications. I was wondering if you had something relevant to that.
Interesting. Perhaps Sparbald's Book of Many Poisons. That could be useful. Not sure I have anything specific to anesthesia, but most anesthesias are in fact poisons.
Well, certainly. You are the librarian, you are the scholar. I will take your advice, and I will take your recommendation.
I'll see what I can do. I'm afraid I can't attend my study at the moment, due to the fact that I'm very shortly due back on duty. But if you stop by later tonight, perhaps we can share a brandy, discuss some books, and I'll see if I can dig that out for you.
Certainly. That would be magnificent.
Well, then I look forward to it. The shift will fly by.
And he excuses himself and moves on.
Let's go back to that camp.
First, I think it would be worthwhile if we sit down and decide on a course of action.
To be fair, I didn't say rush in. Might have implied it, but I didn't say it.
Or he just pats her on the head.
For the sake of expediency, I will point out that it is entirely possible for Nyx to do some scouting and gather information without leaving the keep at all.
That's right, we could launch her with one of the trebuchets.
Don't think that's appropriate.
They had some of those on the parapets, didn't they?
Something slightly scalier than that.
Darkonius!
Yeah, not to put a too fine point on it, yes, I have a little friend that might be able to do some sightseeing for us, if he's up for it, of course. And she looks at Darkonius.
Oh god, let me get out of here, I want to go do something.
So Mick scoops up Darkonius in her hands and are you sure you'll be okay if I ask you to go look ahead for us?
I can go wherever. I've been doing it for a long time.
I know you can.
I'm a very old dragon.
Just be careful, okay?
You do realise that, right?
Well, no.
I've been around forever.
That's a very long time.
Yeah, I'm a survivor. That's what I do.
Okay, well, just try and be careful, okay?
Where am I going?
So there's a camp.
I believe it was south of the keep.
Mix relays this to Darconius.
12 miles seems like a long way. Was it worth?
Would
That's why I asked you for a suggestion. Make it exciting.
Is there somewhere you'd like to go for fun after?
I don't know. You tell me. What's fun?
What if, when you come back, I run you a really, really big bubble bath and you can play in bubbles?
I don't know what bubbles are, but that sounds great.
Okay, cool. You come back and I'm gonna give you the best bubble bath ever.
Okay. So, 12 miles south from here.
Yes.
Okay. What am I looking for?
A camp.
Camp. Right.
You'll see a lot of very unfriendly looking people there.
What if I don't? What does the land look like?
There are a lot of different camps dotted around, but all contained within an area. There's also a cave close to those tents as well.
So I'm looking for a cave. Okay. That's probably a lot easier than one of those camp things.
I'm sorry. There is a cave, and near the cave there are a lot of tents. Tents are like these portable houses made out
Okay,
of...
bored now, bye! He pirouettes backwards off your shoulder and swoops away. You watch as he flaps off into the distance, in the general direction that you indicated he should be heading.
Let's pray, guys.
Every 5-10 minutes you hear him humming a little song in your head, like... Ooh, what's that? Oh, cool. Wow, that's big. Etc. and so forth.
Feels slightly better then.
I would like to sit down and try and formulate some plans together. We need to get some better idea about what we can do with this camp. Of course, we will have to update this with the information that mixes... What is that creature, Nix?
He pseudo-dragon.
So a fake dragon.
I believe his name is Darconius, says Scraw, who has been very quiet this entire time because he's just been bottling up the rage that he's been containing for days and trying not let loose with it.
He's not a fake dragon. Technically, he is a dragon. He's just very different from a normal dragon and much smaller. So different that some people don't think he is a real dragon and thus pseudo-dragon.
Okay, well, in that instance, I think it's worthwhile that we sit down and try to formulate some kind of plan with how to infiltrate this camp and determine exactly what we want out of it.
I believe Darconius is how we're infiltrating the camp.
Unless he can rescue the progeny, I don't think it'll be the last time we see the camp. Could he rescue the progeny? No, I imagine the dragon progeny will be quite large.
Oh, but I imagine any plan to rescue the progeny will probably involve any information able to glean.
For now, my line of thinking is sending Darconius as a preliminary scout so we can get a better idea of things. And if there's anything in particular you guys want Darconius to look for, let me know and I will ask him. Or I will see.
What time is it in the day right now?
12, 1 o'clock.
Okay, so I'll have time to sit down and do stuff before I end up going for a goblet of brandy.
A goblet of brandy. Someone's fancy.
He's ready to drink it out of.
You've got a few hours to kill after this meeting with Leosin.
Should we go to Tabor and at least tell him of our plans? Tell him that we intend to go back.
It'd definitely be a good idea to relay what information we have found from Leosin.
Yeah, I think that might be a worthwhile thing.
Should we do that now or after we've got Draco?
Darconius.
Who's Draco?
Darconius, that's it.
Well, I'd say maybe we wait, at least for now, because it'll give us something to do. We give him a preliminary what information we got from Leosin, and then give him the rest when we come back.
I mean, we should at least tell him that we know for certain now that the town is likely to not be attacked again, because otherwise he's going to be running around preparing for an attack that's not going to happen.
Yeah, that's good thinking.
Yeah.
Also, one thing I'm debating if it's possible finding some of the escaped prisoners and querying them to find out if they know anything.
It'd definitely be a good idea to ask them if they knew exactly what they were labouring away for.
Yeah. Or if
They might have more information than Leosin and that.
It's a wonderful idea, Doctor.
You guys managed to track down Tabor easily enough, but you find that it's almost impossible to find any of the prisoners that were previously at the camp. And you question Tabor about this, and he indicates that most of the prisoners that were rescued were townsfolk who have returned home, and the ones that were not from Greenest are probably around town making plans to leave, but that he did indeed spend the last few days talking to them about what they were able to discern about the camp, and ultimately none of them really had anything useful to communicate. So he just gave them free run of the keep and said that they were really able to leave whenever they wished to. So you guys relay everything that you learned from Leosin.
Well, thank you for your efforts. It's been greatly appreciated. I believe I owe you a debt of great gratitude, and indeed a financial recompense.
And he reaches into his desk and he hands you each a small wooden box that contains the promised gold. You all obtain 250 gold per person, and he takes out a 6th box and places it on the table in front of you.
Does he have any family that this can be passed on to, or do you wish to claim it for your own?
He may still be alive.
Well, it is as whatever you wish. I do not wish to make any assumptions, but if you so wish, you may take it, by all means. Please do.
I do wish to see him again, very much alive.
Well, then I hope that your intentions of returning to this camp prove fruitful. Is there anything that I can do to help you prepare for your excursion?
Actually, more rations might be a good idea. And yeah, if there's anywhere we could purchase potions from.
I'm afraid you'll find the town is rather sparsely occupied in that regard, I'm afraid. Much of the wares of the town were taken in the raid. I'm afraid in terms of the healing magics that we have at our disposal, much were used in defense of our guards to revive them during the dragon attack.
Yes, of course, no worries.
Might I inquire as to where any local apothecaries are within the town that I can check, see what they have in? Not healing items, maybe find something beneficial to us.
I'm not familiar with any apothecary myself, but I'm sure that we can find somebody who can guide you to one, yes?
Telescope and a compass. Just basic navigational tools, make them in handy.
Yes, I'm sure we could get something like that for you. Don't have anything to hand, but give me an hour or two and I can certainly get something put together. A map, a compass, and a spyglass, perhaps.
Yes, probably the best portable version.
Yes. Is there anything else I can get you all? You've been such a help already.
You've been very generous with us. I personally can't think of anything else.
I'm going to go find me an apothecary.
You guys will make your way out of the room, and Mix, you hear in your mind,
Draconius?
What's a tent again?
So they almost look like they're made out of fabric, and they're kind of held up by sticks.
And a camp
Inside of them to keep safe.
has lots of people.
Yes. Are you seeing anything like that?
Well, I found a cave
Mm-hmm.
and some tents, but I don't think I found a camp.
Are there people guarding the cave?
Why don't you just come look, because I'm a bit confused.
Okay. Tarbor, is there a room I could go to? I need some meditation time.
Yes, be my guest. You already have quarters here. You're welcome to reuse those.
Oh yeah, that'd be perfect, thank you. To my party. Guys, Draconius is asking for my attention. I will be back. Just give me a little bit. Mick scurries off to the room.
So you go into the other quarters and you sit yourself down, and without arranging for anyone to look after your body, you connect with Draconius. And things go black very briefly, and you blink, open your eyes, and you realize that you're seeing the world through your goldfish lens again. You look around, and you get a feeling of deep inertia as you realize that you're way up in the air. See? Tents! You look down, and you see that there are indeed some tents. They are dotted around here and there, but there's far fewer tents than you remember seeing. A lot fewer. He swoops around here and there, taking you around where he is. He's keeping his distance because he doesn't want to take any unnecessary risks. But you get the sense, based on the land masses and stuff, that this does appear to be the area where the camp was, but there's almost no one here.
Can I notice anything?
All of the coloured tents with the flags are gone, and most of the tents that are left behind appear to be the smaller tents that were in the areas where the kobolds were. There's a lot of old campfires that have either been left to burn down or have been kicked out. There's a lot of mess, and it looks like this all got shifted in a hurry.
Can I get closer to the cave to see if it's just as vigorously guarded?
You try to encourage Draconius to go down. He gets a bit closer. How are you approaching this cave?
Maybe it would be worth actually flying down to the ground very subtly.
He doesn't see any patrols or anything nearby.
Oh my god.
You encourage Draconius to glide down, and he does. He glides down and he lands on the edge of the precipice. He looks out and he doesn't see anyone in the camp, really. He does see a small campfire with 4 chairs around it. And the campfire is burning, but there's no one in the chairs. He doesn't see anyone standing by the entrance to the cave.
This is either a really great thing or a really unfortunate thing.
Go ahead and roll a dex save.
Okay. Oh my god. It's a 1.
Everything goes black. You snap your eyes open and you are alone in the keep tower and you don't get a sense of anything.
Sense of anything, like, do I know where I am? Do I...
Yeah, you're looking around and you're back in the keep tower. You're in your own body. You're no longer looking through the eyes of Darkonius.
Can I try and get back to him?
Nothing happens. You don't hear anything. Try and call out to him. He's not responding.
Okay, in that case, Mix is going to run back to where her party are.
You guys are hanging out wherever you are, and Mix comes charging out of the quarters that she was in and barrels over to you.
Now.
Right now?
Right now. We have to get our stuff and go. And if you guys aren't going to go, I'm going to go.
Obviously
I
I'm
was
gonna
seeing
go.
things through Draconius, and it's not, there aren't as many tents there anymore.
You're saying they might have started to leave?
Some of them have. The marked, the colourful ones, they're gone.
The
The
mercenaries.
mercenaries have gone.
No one's guarding the cave entrance.
They've moved on since last night then. That's probably
But-
why they didn't pursue us, they just left.
But
They
more
probably just left
importantly,
since-
I lost my connection with Darkonius. I can't reach him. I don't know what's happened, but I need to find him.
I'm assuming you've tried re-summoning him.
Well, I do hope your little friend is alright.
You and me both, but that's why I gotta go save him. I gotta go figure out what's going on. Hold off, guys. We might still be better off going to the camp sooner rather than later, but I'm gonna try resummoning him and see what happens. Thank you, Toby,
So-
for the suggestion.
You're welcome.
You focus on sending him back to where he came from. Though you don't hear any thoughts from him, you do feel a shift in some way. Like a connection. You can tell he's no longer there. And then you sit down and you focus. Next 10 minutes, you call upon Titania to return your familiar to you. And he springs out of nothing in front of you. And you hear in your head, "That really sucked. My head hurts.
Are you okay?
I don't know.
What did you see? I couldn't see anything.
Me neither. Something hit me on the head and it hurt a lot.
Mix is gonna pick him up and hold on to him so that...
Adventures are hard.
Yeah, I don't know what happened, but I'm glad you're okay, as in...
I'm pretty sure something attacked me.
Was it a big something?
Well, I don't know. I didn't see it. If I saw it, you would have seen it.
That's a
If
fair-
I saw it coming, I would have moved. It must
Mix-
have been really sneaky, because I'm pretty sure I was being really sneaky.
Mix is going to relay this to her party and calm down a little bit now that Darkonius is back. But guys, I really think we should go back to the camp now.
Agreed.
We're going in very risky. Very unprepared.
Most of the camp is missing. Now might be the most opportune moment to go there. Also, if most of it has moved off, the rest of it might soon follow, and we will lose them completely.
Well, I would not give to know how to ride a horse.
We could have asked for horses, but we didn't.
I don't know how to ride a horse.
Yeah, we could.
Do any of us know how to ride a horse?
No.
No. Mix, you can't know how to ride a horse.
I bet I could.
Several broken limbs later.
The last has ended because we all died trying to ride horses. Like grabbing our shit going.
Can I try and quickly find Borden?
You managed to find him. He's actually on watch at the gate to the keep as you guys are heading on your way out. Oh, back. Yes. Are you off somewhere?
I'm afraid I'll have to reschedule tonight.
Very well.
A bit of a tricky one.
It's a shame, but I'll be here.
I, in theory, will be back.
I hope so.
That beautiful romance.
He is a slender, completely hairless dwarf.
Could see if the spyglass and compass are available on map.
If you guys have left in a hurry, he did say it would take him a while to get it. I'd say he probably
Yeah.
hasn't had time to get anything together yet. You got vague instructions for an apothecary, but you guys on your way out of town, you cannot find it for love nor money.
I figured at this rate the apothecary I'd find would be just a guy pissing into a bucket.
Probably sends Ozon ahead.
You think it'd be pertinent to let Leosin know of the camp's developments?
Haven't we already left the keep?
Okay, let us make haste.
And that's all we had time for this week. Join us next week for episode 13, Caught Off Guard, when the party find themselves deep in the belly of the beast. Quick shout out to Dungeon Master for President on iTunes. Thanks so much for your review, it genuinely made me laugh out loud. The song you heard at the beginning of this episode was Extravaganza by TRG Banks, and the song that you are now hearing is Whilst You Are Here by Ending Satellites. Until next time, travel safe, and remember, the scales of justice are here for you. Always.